Hey folks, Notorious God here with yet another perfect video. Today I'll be educating all you would-be explorers of Morrowind about the various creatures that call my country home. We'll start with a generic one. Rats. Repugnant, disease-ridden filth. If the word yucky sprung to life and began thieving the ashen air of Morrowind, it would do so in the form of an Argonian. But then the Argonian would die and reincarnate as a rat. Thankfully, you can always buy a Khajiit to deter these pests from nesting in your great house stronghold. Just keep it away from drugs. Let's move on. Mud crabs. They look weird, right? Like, how are they crabs? They don't even have claws, they've just got big mandibles. I feel like that should disqualify them from being classified as crabs, but whatever. Just remember to treat every rock you see in Morrowind with utmost suspicion. These beefy crustaceans can be sneaky fucks. And some of them carry diseases, too. Get too cocky frolicking about the shorelines of Vvardenfell, and you may end up with a life-threatening case of swamp fever, my friend. Just be careful out there. Moving right along. Horses. Horses were brought to mainland Morrowind by the mongrel dogs of the Empire. Sure, they seem like they could be fairly useful mounts or working animals, but sorry, Seabiscuit. Quadrupedal outlanders are still outlanders. Thankfully, due to a certain someone's persistent emission of life-threatening corporous diseases from his volcanic lair, the tempestuous ashlands of Vvardenfell remain totally inhospitable to equine filth, and I intend to keep it that way. On to the next one. Holy Veleth, slaughterfishies. If I had a Dwemer coin for every time I lost a testy to the unforgiving jaws of these hellacious water demons, I'd have 3 Dwemer coins. Slaughterfish are a staple of the coastal Dunmeri diet, but I'll leave the fishing to the fishermen. Next, please. Alright, so now we're starting to get into the heavier Morrowind shit, so I'm just gonna try and ease you into it slowly. Stick with me, folks. We'll get through this. Anyway, this is a scrib. Scribs are the larval form of an insectoid species called quama. See, quama lay gargantuan eggs that are mined by upstanding native-born Dunmer, or their property, as a source of food. At this point in their metamorphosis, they're quite peaceable and indeed rather cute, but they're by no means defenseless. Trust me, they don't take no Malakath. Swing at a scrib and you'll be a first-hand witness to the sensation of being paralyzed and slowly chewed to death, bite by bite, nibble by nibble, crunch by crunch, until your soul can no longer cling to the flesh and bone that's yet to be devoured. And then, nothingness. Total and absolute nothingness, because you had to fuck with a scrib, you bastard, you vile monster. If you encounter a scrib, just let the poor kid be. Let the whittle baby Quama have the idyllic childhood he deserves. He'll do you no harm. That is until he sheds his legs and exoskeleton and transforms into a shitbag Quama forager. Truly one of the most obnoxious things to roam about these sacred lands. I can't think of a single nap I've taken in the wilderness that wasn't rudely interrupted by one of these hopping worms. Then you've got the workers who do the actual heavy lifting once those little asshole foragers find a suitable place to set up shop. Workers dig the tunnels which later house the Quama colonies at large. Sadly, they've yet to unionize, and reports of abuse by the Quama bourgeoisie against the downtrodden Quama proletariat continue to make headlines in Dunmeri news outlets. This oppressive system is violently and assiduously maintained by the soldier caste of Quama warriors who will stop at nothing to uphold the status quo. These extremely aggressive gym rats, rendered sterile by their excessive use of performance-enhancing potions, are the stuff of Quama egg miners' nightmares. They are not to be trifled with. All this persecution, maltreatment, and exploitation is effectuated for the benefit of the Quama 1%, the Quama queens. Truly awful creatures. They are the mothers of all Quama, yet see to it that their children are divided and pitted against one another in a feudal class system that harms the insectoid masses for the comfort and convenience of the insectoid few. Thankfully, such regressive and ruthless forms of systemic abuse are virtually unheard of in Dunmer society. Let's move on. Argonians. The cold-blooded, skin-shedding species of ugly, cretinous livestock whose slack-jawed reptilian gaze is enough to give anyone the heebie-jeebies. If their flesh were to be used as an alchemical ingredient, it would have the effect of damage intelligence, And don't even get me fucking started on the peculiarities of their anatomical characteristics. I mean, the males don't even have Dagoths, and for some reason all the females grow nipless gigalags. Why Crassius Curio's molag ballsack tingles at the sight of these grotesque squamata is beyond me, but I will say they make excellent beasts of burden for the fields and quama mines. Their high market value is well justified by their natural resistance to disease and inability to be people. Plus, their eggs and hatchlings are delicious. Moving right along. Yeah, I don't think so. Ah, yes, Gwar. Gwar once roamed about the plains of Morrowind as wild animals, but have since been domesticated by Dunmerry farmers and field laborers to be used as working animals. Dumb yet sturdy and fairly affordable on the market, they are often referred to as the poor man's Argonian. But be wary of feral Gwar that still wander the hinterlands of Vvardenfell. They ain't playin'. Then there's Kaguti. Kaguti are to Gwar what wild boars are to pigs. They're pissed off and bloodthirsty, and they won't hesitate to tear an Enwa limb from limb if given the chance. Same rule applies to Aelits, whose horrifying visage made me Malakath my knickers back when I was but a little Dagoth. Get on an Aelit's bad side, and Azura may just have to reincarnate you again. Let's move on. Shulks. They're big shit beetles. I don't know what you expect me to say. Let's get to the next one. Oh dear, cliff racers. Cliff racers are most likely the greatest nuisance known to Morrowind other than Nords. It blows my mind that Morrowind was the one place where the mongrel emperor of the Empire's ban on levitation magic was ignored, because it's the one place where the law would actually make sense. Float half a foot off the ground out here and you're immediately greeted by a maelstrom of screeching pterodactyls. Sure, the Tribunal Temple may claim St. Jizz wiped these hellbats from the face of Nirn, but let's not kid ourselves, my dear tribesmen. The false god threesome's track record for truth-telling is lackluster at best, and I dare say the bluntness of this fucker's poorly defined chin smacks of Outlander. Let's move on. Netch. Netch are huge floating jellyfish often hunted or slaughtered for their leather and jam. Let's not pretend they're weird. You've already seen way freakier stuff in this video alone. On to the next specimen. Dregs. The learned lore masters of old believed these lobster folk were besties with Molag Ballsack in eras past, so as far as I'm concerned, they can all fuck off and die. Dregs like to nest and swim around rocky shores, and pretty much all of Vvardenfell is a rocky shore. So if I were you, I'd definitely keep my 3 eyes peeled for these freaks of nature, lest they pinch you right in the pudendum. Moving on. Nyx hounds. These big, bug-like pack hunters could give Crassius Curio himself a run for his money as Vvardenfell's most dangerous predator. You don't see them coming. They see you. And once they do, you can consider yourself up Malakath Creek without a paddle, my friend. Moving on. Ah, the noble silt strider. Yeah, it's a giant flea. Like I said, this is Morrowind wildlife. If you want generic fantasy creatures, take your foreign-born pedestrian ass to Western Tamriel. Anyway, silt striders are the central pillar of Morrowind's public transportation system. They're not creatures to be feared. They're friends to be loved. Unlike Altmer, Bosmer, Bretons, mongrel dogs of the Empire, Nords, Redguards, geckos, sugar lickers, and the shit-stained scat folk known as orcs. Oh yeah, by the way, we have those fucking things here too. Moving on. False gods. For some reason, false gods are abundant in Morrowind, and it really gets under my ashen skin. If you find any of these pests roaming about the wilderness, crush them like the gecko turds they are, and then join the 6th house and the tribe Unmourned, where you can worship an actual god with the greatest pecs since the flawless marble sculpture of flesh that was the body of the OG Nerevar. We also crack a lot of funny dick jokes here. You can join by clicking the subscribe button below and keep up with the cult's latest and greatest bullshit by striking the bell button with Kagranak's tools. Now that you've had your brain injected with all that kick-ass Morrowind knowledge, I hope you can explore the jagged, unforgiving hellscapes of Vvardenfell with greater appreciation for the fauna that makes this country such a unique and fucking horrible place to live in. Like I said, subscribe for more. And check out our other Dagoth videos if you want to give yourself a big Dagoth smile that'll brighten your Dagoth day.